So now let's look at the background images for HTML, which will be dealt with properly in CSS when we are actually designing our web page and yes, creating an image as the background of probably a container. So now background image is defined using the style attribute because it's a CSS property, and it's used in styling and visualizing an image probably, and the text will be over it to just add additional styling to the HTML page. So to achieve that, we specify the property, which is the background image, the CSS property. Then the value will be URL. Then we have parentheses, which means this URL is a function. Then we have parentheses. In this parentheses is the one that holds the image location, and as you can see, it is in quotes here, which means it must be a string and not something like a variable, because it will say the name is not found or it has not been defined yet. So yeah, it must be in quotes, and we put our closing semicolon, then that's all. Very simple to achieve. So as you can see, you can also specify the background image in the style elements in the head section. Yeah, where we have looked at style in our previous lesson. So we select that particular text that we want to add background image to using the element name P. Then we specify the property, which is background image. Then the same thing that we did up here, after specifying the property, then the value is going to be URL. Then the image name is going to be in quotation, as you can see here, that's in parentheses. So to specify background image is very simple and straightforward, and we have several styling functions that we can use, and additional properties that it has. Here, if I specified a background and the image is actually small and cannot take up the whole background, then something will actually happen. It's either the image repeats itself, or it cuts and show only maybe it cover half of the page. Then that's not actually what I want to achieve. We can achieve that using other properties such as background repeat, no repeat. We can also use background cover, which allows the image to cover the entire page, and background stretch also. So these are more properties that we can look at in our code, but let's look at the simple parts just to describe what we are actually trying to achieve here. So I copy this, or we have to write it out ourselves. So I go back into my code editor here, and I have this image here. So I will just comment this out by using this less than, then exclamation, then double dash. Then at the other end, I do that also, double dash, then greater than sign. And as you can see, it is only the text on this line that is highlighted, and others will display as normal text. So now going back to this, let me refresh what I have here. The image should not load. Then now let me go back and style this using that background image element. So to get that, I'll use the style attribute. Then this style attribute will have some property, and the property that I'm trying to use while starting the background image is background image. Then I choose background image. Then to achieve that, you use the URL function. Then the URL function is now where you now specify the image location, but remember it is going to be in a string, which as you can see, it highlights this as an error. Why is that? Is because I have using double quotes here. So if I should apply it here again, it means I'm closing this particular part that is from here to this point. Then it can't understand what I'm trying to do on this part. So to avoid this kind of error, just use the single quote. Yeah, as you can see, everything is looking so fine. Now, where is the image located? I can use a command just to bring out options like this using control then spacebar. Then okay, my image is in the image folder. Then it's have t-shirt.jpg. So I save my file and I go back to the page. Then I hit refresh, and as you can see, it was clipped. It was clipped because the text only takes up a little space here. So now let us use this styling property in a div element. Let's go down and I say okay, in a div element, Now inside this div, that is where I want this style property to be actually. So I take this and I move it in my div tag just like this. Then I give space here. So I save my file again. Then the paragraph text should be okay, and I refresh the page, and yeah, nothing seems to happen because this div does not have any size. Actually, it does not have any width or height. So I can just set that also by setting the width property and height property. So I can say the width should be, let's say, 500 pixel. Then the height also should be, let's say, 500 pixel. That is, I'm expecting a square, right? So I save it and I refresh, and as you can see, it take up, the image only covers this particular part of the page. That is very small part of the page, and it's repeated itself, which means if I have the width expanded to about let's say 1000, let's see the effects, and I save my file, I refresh, you can see the image repeats itself actually. And that is what this background image repeat does, because it says if the background image is smaller than the element, then the image will repeat itself horizontally and vertically until it reaches the end of the element. So to avoid this kind of stuff, you say no repeat, which means the image will not repeat itself. So let's see what that will look like. I say okay. To specify that, I use the background repeat, then I say okay, no repeat, background repeat, and I set no repeat to that. So I save my file and I go back to the page and refresh. It only appear once, and probably the element is greater than this, which is 1000 pixel, which probably end on this line, but the image is only appearing on this angle, which is not what I want. Then I can actually achieve this by setting, so I can actually achieve that by looking at other property, coming back here, and I look at the background cover property, which says that if you want the background image to cover the entire element, then you can set the background size property to cover. That is background cover, background size. Then I set the value to cover. So let's see what that will look like in our style here. I say okay, background size, then I set it to cover. So I save my file here and go back to my browser. Then I go back to this tab, I repeat, I refresh the page, and as you can see, the image has actually grown larger and covered the entire space of the div element. Let's see what the div element actually look like. I can set the border property to actually see the div element. So I set the border, so the border should be 1 pixel, solid black. We will see most of these properties in depth when we are actually working on CSS. So I save the file and I go back, I refresh, and as you can see, this is the entire space that the div elements take. Then now the image has covered the entire page without repeating itself because of this background repeat that is set to no repeat. So we'll be looking at more of these background image styling properties in depth when we are looking at CSS. Thank you, and if this video has explained and elaborated your knowledge on image properties, please subscribe, share, and like this channel. Thank you.